Good afternoon, everyone. I guess it's afternoon, it's just 12:02. My name is Ioma Finley, and I'm the General Manager of Portacheck, and I'm delighted to welcome you all here today to this virtual tour of Dela Dairy from Harrisville, Michigan. Before I continue and before I forget, just a reminder to turn your cell phones off so we don't get all those terrific mood tones during the talk. I'd like to begin by thanking World Dairy Expo, John Rosen, Liz Matsky, the entire staff, and especially the selection committee for accepting our nomination and giving this amazing dairy a chance to showcase their operations. As you know, they were selected for this honor based on their excellence in milk quality. They have received, they were one of 5 platinum winners last year of the National Dairy Quality Award. Since then, they have received numerous other awards, including awards from DHIA, from Michigan Milk Producers for top quality. But what you will see during the presentation is it is not just milk quality that makes them an exceptional dairy. It is their commitment to excellence with every aspect of their management, from parlor management to feed management to the overall cleanliness of their operation. And in fact, somebody who visited them recently said it smelled so wonderful. They wish they could have bottled that fresh, clean smell and brought it back here for this presentation, but obviously you'll just have to imagine that part. One of the things that you will see, though, during this presentation is their passion for dairying and how they're always open to learning new things and trying to implement new things to improve the quality of their dairy. And before I present today's speaker, I would like to acknowledge the presence of a few special guests who have helped them considerably in bringing them to this stage. Tom Harrimans from Michigan Milk, Laura Moser from Michigan Milk, and Phil Durst from Michigan State University. And they will all be here afterwards to answer any questions you might have as well. And so I would like to present to you Sharina and Ryan Dellar from the Dela Dairy of Harrisville, Michigan. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Ioma, and thank you, Portacheck, for that wonderful introduction. I'm here today to talk to you guys a little bit about milk quality and a lot about how we achieve the goals that we have for ourselves and how we've achieved this at our farm. It's not always easy to get up in front of people and talk. I'm sure you guys know that. I'm pretty sure that I can hear my heart beating right now, and my knees are wobbling so bad that I can barely stand here. So, you know, bear with me. I'm not a public speaker, but I am a dairy farmer, and I am so proud of what we do. And I have such a huge amount of pride for producing high-quality milk and for producing milk at all. So thank you for your interest in coming to see our tour, and I hope you enjoy it. So welcome to our farm, Dellar Dairy. So my name is Sharina Dellar, if I didn't already say that once. Side by side, my husband Ryan and I. Ryan's right here in the front row. And for some reason, he's on that side of the podium, and I'm on this side of the podium, which I don't think is very fair, but I guess it works. So, along with our 2 young children, we manage and operate Dellar Dairy Farm. We're located in Northeast Michigan in a small town called Harrisville. I would like to take this opportunity to thank World Dairy Expo and Portacheck for choosing us to come here and for considering us to be one of the top-notch dairies in the industry. Just hearing my farm in that sentence, or that phrase in the same sentence, that's a pretty amazing feeling. You know, I'm proud. This is a huge honor for us, and we are grateful for this opportunity. So, let's get started. My husband Ryan took over the dairy around 12 years ago, starting out with 80 milk cows brought in from various farms. 8 years ago, we were married, and I began the journey of life in dairy farming with him. Now, together, we operate and manage the farm entirely on our own. Although we work together to achieve the same goals, our management responsibilities couldn't be more different. Like many young producers, we started out with more dreams than dollars, but over the years, we've made some management decisions and have worked very hard to make our dreams become a reality. We currently milk 230 cows 3 times a day and have 250 replacements. Our current rolling herd average is around 30,000 pounds per cow, with components being at a 3.4 butterfat, 2.9 protein, and a respectful somatic cell count of 40,000. Our main focus at our farm is to maintain excellent production accompanied by excellent milk quality. My husband and I are firm believers that if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right. We're going to do it to the best of our ability every single day we do it. There are many aspects of our farm management that influence our low somatic cell count. There has never been one thing we can say is the main contributor. There's a whole lot of things involved. Parlor management is one of the most important, followed by nutrition, cow comfort, cow health, genetics, employee management, and the overall cleanliness of our operation. So this here is a picture of our Springer barn, and these stalls and this floor and these cows, that's as clean as they are every single day. You could go to my farm right now in Michigan, and I guarantee that that's what my barn and my cows are going to look like every day. The parlor and the people milking our cows are the most important people on the farm. In 2009, we decided to add on to our parlor, which at that time was a 6-6 parallel rapid exit parlor that was built in 1990. Today, it is still the same parallel rapid exit parlor that was built in 1990, with the addition of it being a 10-by-11 parallel instead. We made the change in order to be more efficient and in order to allow us to switch to 3 times milking by limiting the cow's time standing in the holding pen. So this here is our parlor, and she's going to be 23 in January. So as you can see, there's no fancy computers up here. There's just a basic start and remove computer there. Automatic takeoffs, yes, we do have those, but no conductivity sensors, no enzyme detectors, no milk weight sensors, nothing. Just your standard claws and inflations. I manage the parlor while my husband manages the feed and repro aspects of the dairy. We currently have 7 full-time employees, not including ourselves, and 1 part-time employee. 5 of those employees and myself are responsible for milking. We hold monthly meetings with all the employees to discuss commends and recommendations. Somatic cell count and bacteria counts are posted on a daily basis right next to where the employees clock in and are also discussed on a daily basis. Every employee that milks on our farm is required to attend Michigan Milk Producers Milker Training School, or if they cannot attend, I'm able to teach them the class myself with all necessary documents. In February of 2008, I attended my first milker training school. At the school, I met an amazing teacher and mentor, Tom Harrimans, one of the many wonderful field staff employees of MMPA. When I attended the school, our somatic cell count was averaging around 250,000, which really wasn't all that high at that point, I thought. After attending the class, I changed everything about the way I milked and handled cows. About a year later, in 2009, I cut my somatic cell count down to 70,000. By 2010, in the year 2011, we were hanging right around 50,000. But now, in 2012, we've reached a number that nobody ever thought possible, including me, including Tom, averaging at 40,000 for the fiscal milk year. As you can see here, this is our somatic cell count graph. This right here is when I attended the class. We were starting, running about 250,000. And these little dots are monthly increments. These are DHIA reports off of PC Dart. They come once a month, so each dot represents each month of testing. And these increments on the side are very small. They're within 20,000 cells. So that's why there's kind of a up and down, up and down. So 2009 we started, or 2008, I'm sorry, or 2009, I'm not sure which year that is. We started at 250, and you can see about a year later, we're right down to 70. About 12 to 15 dots later, we're at 70. And then 12 to 15 more dots later, we're running about 30,000 each DHA test right now. And you can see on this side is our rolling herd average. When we attended the class, 20,000 pounds per cow. And you can see after we attended the class, after we improved the way that we milked the cows, handled the cows, the rolling herd average just took off like crazy. And then right here in April of 2010, we switched to 3 times milking. And then you can just see the uphill climb from there. And then right here, we're kind of in the summer months, so we did lose a little bit of production with the hot heat, dry summer that we had in Michigan. But we're still hanging right around 29, 30,000, which is pretty cool. The difference was entirely in the way we milked our cows. We now focus on clean, dry, well-stimulated udders. Focus on milking clean, dry, well-stimulated udders. We work in groups of 3 cows with 2 trips to each cow. We start with a dry wipe to each teat with a microfiber towel that removes sand and debris. We then apply a 1% iodine foam to each teat, pre-strip 4 strips of milk from each quarter, and massage the dip into the teat ends, closely watching the milk on the floor for any abnormalities. The iodine foam is then reapplied, and we move on to the next cow, doing the same exact thing to each cow in our group of 3. This step takes about 10 to 20 seconds per cow. Once we have prepped the 3 cows, we return back to the first cow we started with and wipe her with a clean, dry microfiber towel, being sure to remove all iodine, all manure, and strictly focusing on the teat ends and making sure they are very clean. The unit is then attached and aligned. It tends to be about a minute to a minute and a half. If you got a really dirty cow, you're kind of hanging close to that 2-minute mark, but we like to be right at about a minute and a half once we get that milker on. After that very first time that we wiped her, a minute and a half later, we're getting that milker on. This allows for a fast, clean milk out that helps to prevent teat end damage, over milking, and then all of those go along with mastitis. Following unit removal, the entire teat from the base of the udder to the end of the teats are dipped with a 1% iodine barrier teat dip. So as you can see in this picture right here, we have me milking and a hired employee, not a family member, nothing like that. This is me wiping a cow here, and you can see how do you guys see that circle right there in that teat end? That is how every single cow, every single tit is wiped at our farm. Everyone is flipped up, everyone is looked at, everyone is wiped clean. No sand, no manure. Good luck finding any of that after I've wiped a cow. And also after he's wiped a cow. Which is what really is important too, is that our employees, I can guarantee that this guy down the line right here is doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. So this is our milker aligned. We have a hose, I don't know what you call that, like a hose support. Keeps the hose up off the curb to keep the weight off the back of the milker. And this is a post-dipped cow. It's not that pretty of an udder, but she's milking 150 pounds a day, so she's good to stay. And as you can see, this udder is hair-free. We singe udders, and I do believe that singeing udders is a huge part of having a low somatic cell count as well. Once we lowered our somatic cell count to the level that we're at now, it limited my testing abilities when using the California Mastitis test and other various tests that were available to me at that time. The CMT paddle would read a somatic cell count that was at 250,000 or higher. It started to be a bit of a problem for me when the highest somatic cell count I would have in a whole udder would be 250,000. And I wouldn't be able to find a hot quarter with the CMT paddle. That is when I started using the Porticell strips. The strips enable me to read an individual quarter at as low as 40,000 cells, where the CMT paddle would only go as low as 250,000 cells. I use the strips on a daily basis, testing all fresh cows at around 36 hours fresh, sometimes They need an extra milking or two if they got really thick colostrum or, you know, a little tinge of blood in the colostrum or whatnot. I also use the strips on all cows that are finishing treatment for mastitis and are about to go back into the milk line. And I find the strips to be most beneficial when I receive my DHIA hot sheet from test day. And if any of you guys test DHIA, you guys know what the hot sheet is. If I have a cow on that list, usually if she's running over 150 to 200 mark, and the CMT paddle shows a negative result for all quarters, I'm then able to pull an individual quarter sample from that cow and run the porticell test. And that will tell me which of those quarters is running high and causing her to have an elevated cell count. So the test is simple. After I take my milk samples, I put 1 drop of milk on the little strips, as you can see, 3 drops of the solution that the strips come with. I set my timer for 45 minutes. I usually clip the timer to my shirt or put the timer in my pocket, wherever you want to put it so you can hear it. And I go back and milk, or I go feed calves, or I go give shots or move cows, or I do whatever I need to do in a 45-minute time span. It's not like I'm sitting there watching the test and waiting for it to be done. I'm still working and doing what needs to be done. And when the timer goes off, I read the strips in my digital reader, and the reader will give me an exact cell count on each of those quarters, and there's no guesswork. Milk culturing is also something I do to help produce high-quality milk. I have been culturing on farm for close to 3 years now. I culture all clinical and subclinical cows. With the result, I'm able to determine a correct treatment plan geared at the specific organism found. My supplies are inexpensive, and the culturing process does not require a lot of time. Literally, it takes me 1 minute to plate a cow, put it in the incubator, and walk away from it. Culturing has allowed me to extend my knowledge about how mastitis is caused, and most importantly, how to treat it successfully and inexpensively, or in probably about 40% of my cultures, how to not treat it. My culturing abilities have allowed me to teach classes at my farm to other producers interested in improving udder health as well. Aside from the parlor, barn management and the overall cleanliness of our farm is probably the next biggest contributor. The milk cow barn is scraped 3 times a day, and the backs of the stalls are cleaned out as well. New sand is put in once every 6 days, and the stalls are raked every day. The dry cow and Springer barn are scraped once a day and raked every other day, with new bedding being put in once weekly. So as you can see here, we have our hired guy, and that is what we do every day. We kick the manure out of the backs and kick new sand over the manures, and then we scrape as well. The milk cows are housed in a sand-bedded freestall barn that was built in the year 2000. The dry cows are housed in a sawdust-bedded freestall barn that was built in 1990. Springers are housed in a sawdust-bedded freestall barn built in 2008, while the rest of the young stock are housed on small bedded packs in numerous barns. The bedded packs are cleaned completely once weekly, with new straw being put in on a daily basis. All barns are equipped with adjustable curtains and fans to accommodate the weather conditions. So as you can see here, this is our milk cow barn, and this is a stall that cows just got up from. That's how clean stalls should be. That's how clean they are right now, even though my husband and I aren't there to do it. I promise you, they're still this clean right now when we're not there. And these are our bedded packs. We usually group our weaned calves in groups of 3 to 4, depending on size, and they're on straw. We added a brand new calf barn in 2011 and chose the Cozy Calf Suite as our stall setup. Calves are fed twice daily by myself and a part-time employee. Calf health is excellent and has a less than 1% instance of sickness and morbidity. I almost forgot to talk about another important thing that contributes to cow health and a low somatic cell count, and that's feed. And the reason I almost forgot to talk about it is because I don't do it. It's definitely not my strong point of the dairy. My husband does that, and he's very, very good at it, so I'll leave it to the professionals. I do know that we use a TMR mixer to mix all our feed for the cows. Milk cows and calves are fed twice daily. Dry cows and heifers are fed once daily. We farm around 600 acres and raise all our own corn silage, shelled corn, hay, wheat, and straw. As far as genetics go, we perform all AI breeding, and the semen that we choose comes from the notable top 10 bulls from each semen company that we buy from. We choose semen based on milk fat, protein, net merit, TPI, productive life, and calving ease. Ryan does most of the breeding, probably 95% of it, but I am trained and able to breed when he's not around, which isn't very often, but I actually had my very first baby due today. She's probably going to calve. I'm hoping she holds out till I get back tomorrow, but that's pretty exciting. As far as manure management, that's definitely not my strong point either. That's all my husband again. But we have a drive-down manure pit that we clean out twice a year, and the pit is pumped out once or twice a week, depending on how many cows we have running through the parlor at that particular time. And we use all the manure to spread on our crop fields for fertilizer. Having a low somatic cell count has provided us with extra financial support. In 2011 alone, we earned an extra $65,000 in bonuses and federal order monies. With that money, we were able to build our new calf barn out of operating expenses. Overall health of the cows has improved. Cows are breeding back quicker because they are healthier. And since lowering our somatic cell count, we have also lowered our metabolic issue rate. We rarely will have a lame cow, a DA, ketosis, or milk fever. We probably see less than 5 of all of those combined in an entire year's time. Not only does it make managing easier, but it is putting more milk in the tank and less time and money treating sick animals. Success at our farm and to us and our employees is important. Seeing our milk production go up and our somatic cell count continuously go down to levels that no one thought possible, and walking out to the barns and seeing strong, clean, happy, healthy cows, that's all that matters to us. As far as our future goals go, I don't think there's a farmer out there who doesn't dream big and plan for modernization and expansion. Our plans include building a commodity barn to save on feed costs, or possibly putting in a sorting gate to make breeding and hoof trimming easier. I could go on all day long about the things that I would love to do to my farm. But you all know that finances and milk price all have a play in that too. So one thing we will always do though is we will always strive to keep improving production and to keep lowering that somatic cell count. That's something that we'll never quit doing regardless of finances. So that is a success in the future of our farm. I have my employees to thank for doing a wonderful job. I can also say that I couldn't have made my somatic cell count possible without using the Porticell strips and Michigan Milk Producers field staff for guidance. All MMPA field staff agents are just a phone call away. If there is a problem that we can't figure out, they will help us and solve the problem with us or for us. MMPA has provided me with an amazing mentor and teacher, who I mentioned earlier, who has taught me and is still teaching me everything he knows about mastitis and milk quality. I'm actually teaching him a few things now too, so it kind of works out. Without meeting him and all his help over the years, I wouldn't be standing here today. Being a dairy farmer is rewarding in itself, but producing some of the highest quality milk in the country, that's pretty special. I believe that every farmer has the capability to do the same things that we have. If you challenge yourselves, only positive things will come of your herd. You will be amazed at how high production and high quality milk go hand in hand. Thank you for visiting my farm, and I'll take any and all questions that you may have.
Questions? Where?
Awesome.
Okay.
As far as the culturing goes, I'm sorry. You said it's relatively inexpensive, but give me a number for setting up the culturing process.
My initial kit,
So the question is culturing and what it cost and how do you go about setting it up?
my initial cost for the kit, which came with an incubator, some loops, and about 20 startup culturing plates, cost me just about $100. As far as each individual culture that I run, cost me roughly just a little over $2, $2.50 per plate per cow.
Are you doing any vaccinating for somatic cell, or what's your overall vaccination program?
I wouldn't say that we vaccinate for somatic cell because there is no vaccination for somatic cell count. There is vaccinations for certain types of bacterial pathogens. We use a J5 E. coli vaccine. We give it at dry off, at 1 week pre-fresh, and at 70 days post-fresh. And I am currently working on possibly adding in a 100-day post-fresh as well.
What are your predominant organisms that you find when you culture?
Predominantly, I find coliforms. Probably 90% of the ones I culture are E. coli. The other 10% are going to be your staphs, not Staph aureus, none of those. We don't have any of that in our herd. And a little bit of environmental streps, not strep egg, none of that. So.
Another question? Some people say you can have a somatic cell count that gets too low. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't agree at all with that. Obviously, you guys saw my rolling herd average graph and my somatic cell count graph. You could see that as the somatic cell count went down, the rolling herd average continued to go up. So how could you even factor that into the same sentence? Cow health, repro, everything's gotten better since we've lowered our somatic cell count. Granted, we've gotten better at managing also, but it all just kind of goes together.
Another question? Yes.
Do you feel that your 3 times a day helped your cell count, or did you notice a difference when you went to the 3 times a day over the twice a day along with all your other practices?
I did see a difference in our cell count when we switched to 3 times a day. When we were running 2 times, we were averaging between a 45 to a 50, which is still very good. But when we did switch to 3 times, now we average anywhere from a 25 to a 40. So we did lower about 10,000 cells. But one thing I will say about 3X milking is I do notice a little bit higher of a new infection rate. Instead of having 1 cow a month flare up, I might have 2 cows a month flare up. The milkers, the tits are being opened up more often. They're exposed more to bacteria. I have to rely on more employees to do the work for that extra milking, but they do a fantastic job. So yes, switching to 3X did lower our somatic cell count.
What's your dry off procedure? Do you use any teat sealants like Orbiseal or?
Yes, I use Spectra Dry to dry treat my cows, followed with Orbiseal. And for a while, I followed also with a T-Hex dip. The T-Hex dip was wonderful. It was costly, and it was a little time-consuming as well. It worked wonderfully. But so Spectra Dry, followed by Orbiseal, and the J5 vaccination.
What is your program as far as nutrition, and how are you putting that kind of aspect here under the microscope?
I'm going to hand that question over to my husband because I have no idea.
I'll hand it over to her to make sure he does it.
Sure.
Mainly we rely on putting up quality feed and our nutritionist is, he's there weekly, sometimes twice a week, pulling samples. We run a TMR sample every week, just to make sure everything's in line where it's supposed to be. And mainly quality feed. That's what we try to achieve.
As far as feeding any extra, like vitamin E or anything like that, is that kind of what you were gearing toward?
Yeah, when you walk around the show, you see all the people selling immune boosters and immune additives and things like that. So to follow up on your question, do you use any supplemental feeds that you feel helps you with your milk quality or production?
Nope, nothing at all. We just corn silage, haylage, and protein and a mineral. That's our ration.
Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Do you think it's possible to be handling the animals too much? Some producers feel the less you have to handle them, the more relaxed they are in the parlor and stuff.
I think that's entirely on depends on who's handling them. If you're handling cows the right way, I heard a guy earlier at a speech, well yesterday at a speech that I came to, he said all cows are mothers. Do you treat your mother? How do you treat your mother? You know, do you yell at her? Do you kick her? Do you slap her and pull her tail and twist her tail up, even though she doesn't have a tail? But, you know, it's entirely on who's handling the cows. If you have a rough handler, yes, you can handle your cows too much, and they won't come in the parlor if they see him in there. If you have everyone on your farm trained specifically how you want them to move cows, you can move cows all day long, and the cows will cooperate.
Somebody right in here.
I was just going to follow up with what I was asking about the nutrition. That is, how far back into the whole process do you go in terms of looking at the nutritional elements of the components that gets into the TMR? What kind of a process do you use there to make sure that you've got good stuff coming in throughout the whole harvesting kind of process?
Ryan? It wasn't fair to Sharina, so we had to be sure we got Ryan to get up here and sweat through it too.
Oh, it's a tough question. We try to just, not sure how to answer that one.
We don't do anything really.
I don't think we do anything special. We, what we got there is what we use, and we try to rotate crops as much as we can for hay. Try not to run over 5 years on haylage. Try to get new fresh feed, and I don't think we do nothing special for trying to get quality feed.
Another question in the back. So think of your questions. We still have a few minutes.
Yes, I was just wondering if you're getting back from where you went from 250 down to 50 or 40, did you have to call rates, or what was some of your pathogens that you was testing for that you come up with at that time?
When we first lowered our somatic cell count, I wasn't doing the culturing then. I kind of got into it after I was down around like in the 70 to 60,000 range. So I don't know what pathogens I had at that time. But I did cull, not real heavy, because we were trying to grow our herd at that time. We still had room in our barn. Now we're completely full. But I think our cull rate was probably somewhere in the 20% range back then in 2009. Now we run a little bit higher cull rate, around 30%, 35%. But you have to look at that cull rate and see what percentage of those cows were sold for mastitis and other reasons. I think last year, out of a 35% cull rate, we sold 5 cows for mastitis, I believe. And usually that's because when I entered in the computer as sold as mastitis, I would consider that to be a 3/4 cow. Any cows that are 3/4, obviously you're selling them because they're 3/4, and they're 3/4 because they have mastitis usually, unless they calved in you know, as a 3-quartered cow, but that's pretty rare. Did that answer your question?
I was wondering, how do you store your feed? Harvester, bunkers?
All ag bags. We put our corn silage in ag bags. We have some haylage in ag bags, or all our haylage in ag bags, and we have round bales wrapped. We don't use, we used to use our harvesters, but they're really expensive to fix when they break, and kind of a pain in the butt when they get clogged up and stuff, and they're hard to clean and that sort of thing. So yeah, just egg bags and wrapped.
Okay, up front.
You explained your cow dry off program. So now when you do your porta check, mid-lactation, or can you explain how often you do that? And then you culture, do you most often always go back with antibiotic type of treatment, or do you ever use some of the homeopathic treatments?
I haven't had any experience with the homeopathic treatments. I will tell you that since I started culturing, I probably did cut my antibiotic usage probably by 75%. Easy. I now can understand the pathogens, how they're going to work in that udder, if they're going to treat themselves, which I would say 75% of the cultures I do self-cure. I don't have to use an antibiotic. But the other portion, the coliforms, things like that, I do have to use an antibiotic on those. As far as what was the question about the dry cow? Or the portage, when I use the strips, like I said, I use the strips after a cow calves in, after her colostrum is gone and the milk's nice and white. I'll test each quarter then to look for any subclinical infections. I will test a quarter. Say, for example, a cow comes in and she's got a few flakes in her milk. You get a CMT result. I'll pull that sample then and run a porticell strip on it. And based on what levels that somatic cell count is at, I can kind of guess what organism it is. But I'll also pull the sample and run the culture as well. But you'll find that the number of cells kind of attached to what organism it is, which makes treating very easy. But then you'll find too that a large percent of the organisms will self-treat within 3 to 4 days of entering the udder.
Well, you're thinking of another question. We talked the other night about heifer mastitis is a big thing. Do you see much difference with your heifers freshening, or what do you do to keep them clean?
I see no difference between heifers and cows. If anything, our heifers get way less mastitis than our cows. I don't do anything special with them. I don't vaccinate my heifers with J5. I don't vaccinate my heifers. All we give them is Bovishield, I guess, really. I don't pre-dry treat them. We house them, like I showed you, in a sawdust bedded freestall barn. It's scraped once a day. I do nothing special.
One more question. I think PortaCheck was going to give away some free samples to the one that asked the last question. And that was me, you know, so somebody's got to ask a question. Okay, there we go. Knew that would do it.
What is your overcrowding percentage, and do you think that has something to contribute to your cell count?
I'm sorry. Can you
your crowding percentage of your barn?
Oh, okay. Yep. We're 1-to-1 right now on stalls, and we won't overstack. I think that plays a huge part in milk quality and in connection with cow comfort. I don't want to see cows laying in the alleys. You know, I don't want to see lame cows because they can't lay down enough. So we're 1-to-1, and that's what we'll always be. We won't overstack. We'll cull, or we sold our first bunch of heifers just this last few months ago, which is really, really hard for us. But we'll sell before we'll overstock.
Maybe they'd even give away more samples if somebody asks another question. I'm going to turn it back to Ioma now. Ioma?
Well, thank you, everybody, for your attention. We really enjoyed having you here today. I hope you learned a few things, and I wanted to remind you to please fill out those blue evaluation sheets. World Dairy would very much appreciate you having those back. So before you leave, let's give our speaker one more big hand.